Here, leading up to the holidays, just cluing things up, I'm reminded of an event from my past. Whether it's real or just fiction, I'll leave for you to decide. Want to hear it? Good. Glad that you asked. It was in the late 90s, a career about half through. I got home from school all beat to a snot, thinking, cripes, I'm so tired, but I can't go to bed yet. I'd like to sleep, but I suppose I'd better not. It had been a rough week, like all of the rest, left me knackered and my strength it was fading. No wonder, considering the lead up to Christmas holidays, what with meetings, planning, reporting, and grading. But I figured I'd just stop, rest up for a bit, since I was plopped right there in my seat. And it wasn't so long before I just nodded off with ungraded papers splayed about at my feet. Till at length I was awakened to the sound of a voice. A shadowy figure had entered the room. Too shaken to run, too tired to fight, I just cowered there, awaiting my doom. But the stranger spoke softly. I'm the ghost of schools past. My purpose is not for you to be judging, but to show you the way it once was long ago when you were younger and not such a curmudgeon. The ghost waved his hand and the room started spinning. I was lifted right up from my chair. Next thing that I knew, I was looking down at the ground from about 10,000 feet in the air. We flew for a while, but at last we sat down by a school I remembered well from my past. Through the window, I could see a 20-something version of me, to say the least. I was somewhat aghast. I could tell that young me was trying hard to have fun, for it was still so exciting and new. But the memories of some realities from the 80s for schools reminded me it was still just a bit of a zoo. My science room was crowded, somewhat unsafe, no eye wash or fume hood to be seen. But worse than that, I had to go along with some stuff that was so stunned to the point of being obscene. I recall being told by someone who should have known better that people only made use of 10% of their brains. But if I paid more attention to Maslow and Bloom, no doubt I could help them break through those old chains. And worse, I recalled being ordered point blank to not correct or make mention of spelling. We live in modern times, use the whole language approach. One or another was constantly yelling. Through it all, though, some peers pointed out to deaf ears, we studied some of that when we were Mon undergrads. And while there's a few shards of truth in amongst what you say, you've got to twist it up just a little tad. Still, I could see smiling faces of students typing away, Mavis Beacon on Commodore 64s. No internet, no cell phones. And when the bell rang for recess, Lord save us, they all went outdoors. Then the ghost waved his hand and it all disappeared. Soon I was back, but my blessed not alone. Another apparition claiming to be of the schools of time present snapped its fingers for the next thing I'd be shown. This time I was outside of my school from that time, staring in at myself and my class, compelled to tailor my lessons to fit trendy neuro myths and feeling like a hypocritical jackass. I'd been told by some tweet that it was scientifically known that people are either totally left or right-brained. The lefties excelled at logic, sequence, and math, while the righties were more holistic, he explained. And what's more, he assured me that we have preferred learning styles. So, as I planned, I should bear that in mind. Didn't matter that what I studied said it was a big load of bunk. I'd no choice but to make it part of my grind. And how they all went on about this new internet thing would soon give the classrooms a good overhaul. Perhaps we wouldn't even need to have teachers after that. And for sure, we'd need no paper. No, none, not at all. I once again hearkened back to what I learned in grad school and knew that's not what the faculty had been saying. And if all hands had just stopped talking and listened to the whole thing, there'd be a more accurate framework for portraying. And with that, the apparition, its fingers had snapped, poof, back in my chair, I was comfortably sat. And yeah, one more spook, this one claiming I'm from future schools, touched its nose and we were off like a shot. This time we put down in a spot unfamiliar, a school in a place I didn't know. A gray-haired teacher's face. Was it mine that I saw? And there was also weird stuff there, although. Through the window, I could see a huge computer screen labeled Smart Board, and with what it could do, I was floored. But there was something a bit off, something aimless and shallow, whatever about smart. The students seemed like they were bored. And 'twas the tablety things which they obsessively fiddled, just like Captain Picard and the crew on Star Trek. Still, despite that wondrous technological feast, I saw little learning, just distractions. In truth, a train wreck. And yep, still more outside voices were still to be heard. Enough new phrases to give you the chills. Things like coding, multiple intelligence, digital literacy, and my favorite, something called 21st century skills. Yet once again, I felt like shouting right out, that's not quite what they're espousing at none. And if you just stop gabbing and listen up for a bit, you'd be better off in the long run. Still, once again, what I really did see through the toys, distractions, jargon, and hype was a teacher and students united, interacting and working despite half-baked theories, policies, and tripe. Then the specter touched its nose one last time. Soon I was back home, and this time with nary spook, wondering if it really happened. But one thing I was sure of, if it was a dream, the timing and the message were no fluke. For my 3 little flights would not see the end of the politics and fads that lead us astray. Still, those visions had left me with a true gift of insight that's still with me today. Yes, it's true, that story was set about 20 years in the past, and we've all moved on. Some things have improved, to be sure, but we're still far from perfect, though most are trying hard. And as for those false steps and mistakes, there'll be more. It's true that things change. Trends come and they go. Ideas copied from elsewhere with a lack of foresight. Till, through this mayhem and chaos that then thus ensues, good teaching and learning will happen in spite. Sure, we have to move on and keep up with the times. Still, sometimes the new trends are mere fads. But if we put students first and focus on relationships, in the end, what we do will be judged not half bad. And now, you have a chance to focus on what matters to you. Holidays are near and the term is complete. My hope is that you too enjoy being with family and friends, and that your time with joy and laughter will be replete.